It was Ian Lee reporting there. Let's bring in Alan Diehl now. He's a former accident investigator for the US National Transportation Safety Bureau, and he's the author of Air Safety Investigators. He joins us via Skype from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Thanks for being with us, Alan.
Thanks for having me, Lynda.
Now, of course, we still don't know the cause of this crash, although Egyptian authorities were quick to rule out terrorism. If there's no sign of foul play, what could possibly cause a plane to fall out of the sky at cruising altitude?
Well, of course, there's several possibilities, and I can only speculate at this point. The most interesting thing that I've heard so far, other than the fact that the crew apparently did say they were having technical difficulties, but the plane was approaching its cruise altitude. It continued to climb for a couple thousand feet, then it descended for a couple thousand feet, and then it entered a rapid descent at roughly 6,000 feet a minute or 2,000 meters a minute. That's an extremely rapid descent, and of course, this pilot knew he was flying over at least a disputed area, and they're not supposed to go below 26,000 feet. So for him to, or them to enter that steep of descent suggests that this must have been some kind of extremely catastrophic problem. Whether it was a fire, a rapid decompression, an engine problem, we don't know. Obviously, they've got the recorders, and within a matter of days, Lynda, I think we'll know a lot more.
So it'll take a few days, do you think, for investigators to go through those two black box data recorders to ascertain information?
Absolutely, Lynda. And they, of course, we're assuming that the recorders are operable and intact. That'll be critical to understanding this. But now, since they found both recorders, it looks like they should be able to piece this together in a fairly rapid manner. Within a few days, we had to at least have a preliminary indication of what we think went wrong.
And Alan, this plane was about 20 years old. There was a routine check, we're told, before takeoff, which seemed to show that everything was okay to proceed. What do you make of the age of the plane, and how does it compare to the average age of other passenger jets?
Well, I don't think there's any problem with the age per se. As you know, Lynda, there's very rigorous procedures for keeping these aircraft in flying trim. They have to replace certain components. Everything is inspected. So the mere fact that it was 20-some years old and had, I think, 50-some thousand hours doesn't make it dangerous. Now, I'm sure you've seen the account in the press where the co-pilot's wife reportedly has said that he was not happy with the condition of the aircraft. Now, that's just a press account, nothing official. But I think at this point we probably shouldn't assume that there was a known mechanical problem, that this plane was operating unsafely or knowingly unsafely. We'll just have to wait till we get the information from the recorders and take it from there. Obviously, the Russians are visiting the offices of Metrojet, and they're looking at all the background information, including even the fuel that was put aboard the aircraft before it left. They always do that. They take fuel samples from the tanks where the fuel came from that was used on aboard the airplane. So they're going to check out everything. The Egyptians are going to be thorough about this, and the Russians and the French, I'm sure, will help.
That's right. There are a number of investigations underway. And of course, this plane went down when it was at cruising altitude, about 30,000 feet. How unusual is it for a plane to fall out of the sky when it's at that kind of location within a flight path?
Well, only about 13% of accidents occur in cruise. It's obviously the safest part of the flight, so it is fairly unusual. But yeah, obviously it does happen. We've seen this in recent years. We lost a McDonnell Douglas MD-80 over Africa last year, 2014, I believe it was, and that was a weather encounter. We've seen other aircraft with weather encounters. Obviously, we know about the Malaysian aircraft that was down by hostile action over the Ukraine, but usually that's the safest part of the flight, and it was almost leveling off at its assigned cruise altitude when apparently this radio message was received that there was a technical problem, and he intended to go to the nearest airport. And but like I said, Lynda, this was an extremely rapid descent, And when you fly these kind of aircraft, you have to be careful. You can't go down too fast because of the aerodynamic pressures, the sound barrier and so on can actually do damage to the aircraft. So you stick the flight spoilers out. These are kind of speed brakes, and you try to get down, or he apparently tried to get down as rapidly as he could. So that suggests that we're talking about a major failure aboard that aircraft.
Mm. Well, I'm sure we'll find out more over the coming days. Alan Diehl, we appreciate your insight on all of this. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Lynda.